If I was sitting in your position, Henry, I might think he didn't respect you enormously there. So, come on, do you respect his position?
No, I do respect his position. I think we were discussing, actually, before we came on air, I think there are arguments on both sides. I think most people in the country looked at this question of whether we should leave or stay and thought about it very carefully and then came to a decision. I made a decision that it was right to leave, but I work for an organisation where, as far as I'm aware, everybody else working for me made the decision the other way. And now we're looking at where do we go from there? What do we do? How do we make this actually happen? How do we respect the democratic result?
But are you optimistic? Because I am detecting more and more pessimism.
I'm optimistic. I think Brexit is difficult, and it was always probably more complicated than the Leave side said.
And the
Remain side had a chance to say all that during the campaign, and they did.
But you head a think tank that specialises in this very question, as it were. We are a long way from seeing a position, even on customs, from the Prime Minister. Where do you think she'll end up?
Well, I think the argument on customs is a little bit of a proxy for a broader argument that's the important one. Customs goods, they're an important part of our economy, but we're talking about only a fifth of our overall trade. It's services that really matter. So the Prime Minister...
But if she can't even reach a position on
the reason she
goods, as it were, what hope have we got that she's going to reach a position on...
It's a proxy for the overall discussion about how far away or how close we are. And I think what we're getting is a bit of a dialogue of the deaf between Leavers on one side saying can't give up any sovereignty at all to get any sort of economic relationship with Europe. That's not going to happen. And Remainers, it is inside the cabinet, but Remainers also saying on the other side, either let's rerun the referendum or we've got to basically recreate the EU from outside the EU.
I don't think you rerun the referendum. I really don't...
You're asking for a second referendum. You're calling it a people's vote, but that's disingenuous. It's really a second referendum.
But Henry, just on this position of, the right of people to have some kind of a say, let's just say for argument's sake that come the autumn Parliament were to vote down whatever deal the Prime Minister gets. Wouldn't it be reasonable in those circumstances either to have a referendum or indeed for there to be a general election?
I don't think so. I think the fact is we're in a parliamentary democracy. We occasionally have referendums, right? We can argue about whether that's a good thing.
Sorry, we can argue about whether that's a good or a bad thing, but we do have referendums occasionally. We had one in '75. We had one on devolution. We've had one on electoral reform and other questions. So we've had a referendum. I don't think that should be put to referendum again for another generation, personally. I think the question now lies with Parliament. Parliament voted after the Miller case to trigger Article 50, and that inexorably leads to an exit from the Union unless it's revoked. Well, that's a crisis over Brexit in the autumn.
I think there are political difficulties ahead. I think one of the things that worries me is that the Labour's tests are just simply unmeetable. There's no way that leaving the European Union can deliver the exact same benefits.
So you sort of agree with the logic of Labour's position?
It's not Theresa May's test. No,
exact same benefits.
No, it's a misquoting of something David Davis said in Parliament. But I think the other point is that they're asking for a customs union with the European Union, which gives us control still over our trade deal. That's just not on offer. So it's Mickey Mouse opposition politics from the Labour Party, and we need to hear some serious policies. Alice is right. When it comes to it, are they going to vote this down or not? That's a very big question. And Tom's sitting there in the chair, not even able to tell us if they're going to vote against the EEA amendment. Are we going to be like Norway in the free movement with the European Union, a broad-spectrum rule taker? I would have thought that obviously would be an impossible position if you were setting out to respect the referendum result. And yet, we can't even get a clear answer on that.
Well, I mean, it does look to me, as somebody who devotes rather too much of his life to thinking about these things, that the majority of people in Parliament would prefer effectively membership of a customs union over the two proposals.
I think people need to be very careful about this customs union question because it doesn't solve the problems that they think it's going to solve.
Correct.
And so I think much more important is the question of actually alignment on regulations than actually a customs union. I don't think customs union is the right answer. What it would mean is we lose control of our trade policy. The EU can sell access to our markets when we're a non-member without our control. That just doesn't work. The question is, how do we deal with the Irish border and so on? Those are important questions.
They're crucial, but Anne Milton thinks that, the withdrawal bill should be brought back as soon as possible.
I'm not sure she quite said that, but I think
well, that's exactly what she said. She said there was a hunger to get on and vote on it.
I think we need clarity from the government, and the government's taken far too long to come to quite obvious positions, and we still have a disagreement about the nature of our future customs relationship with the European Union within the cabinet itself. I think they should bring the bill back to the Commons, see down the rebels from the Lords, and let's just get on with this. We know where the direction is. Alistair may not agree with that, but I take the view that people voted in this referendum, that the government has set out a clear path. The Labour Party broadly supports that path as well, other than on the question of the customs union. Let's bring these back to the Commons and get on with negotiating.